In the wise words of a fat cat, people will always stare, so make it worth their while. And we are planning to make this podcast worth your while. Welcome to the Fat Cats Rugby podcast. Yet again, back in the driving seat, Edwin could not match the pressure, so he was unavailable for this one. My name is Ruben Kihumuro, and an interesting day. Caesar around, the usual fat cat, and a very, very interesting guest, but we shall get into his details later. Caesar, how has the week been? I don't think people have checked on you ever since that three-peat of a loss.
No, they didn't.
How did you cope?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It wasn't a good day for me. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately, I wasn't there. But you see, it's worse when you're not there, because then you can start saying, I could have done something, but no, I couldn't have done anything. I guess the kids choked to all those people around. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, my team's lost, but of the schools that participated in the tournament, SMAC has the highest number of under 20 call-ups. That tells you everything. We had the best team this season, but my God, I don't know. I give it to Hannah. Guys showed up.
I actually think that you would have collapsed if you were there, so thank God. But anyway, the Fat Cats have been up to quite a lot. Another story that came up during the course of the week was there was a tweet that was asking about people's experiences being put in jail. And our very own Bruno Akampa quoted it with a very interesting story of how he was moving around Chase Johnson. First of all, him talking about being around Chase Johnson talks about how old he is. Then the police caught him and they told him to go in a line and walk all the way to the police station. Then he further narrates that in some John Rainbow kind of scenario, he's able to duck out of the line and then run. And then while people were actually starting to believe his story, and he tells us that he sidestepped the police person and the police person fell to the ground. That's when everyone was like, jamu tape.
This guy was the best reaction. But this guy reposed this one is bluff. Just let the guy prosper, man.
So with us today, we have a gentleman by the name of Ivan Ssemuwemba. I don't even know where to start because he has quite a number of titles, but I like to call him a sports enthusiast. Same way I call myself a sports enthusiast, because he's a man I take time to bounce ideas off. Sometimes we don't agree, sometimes we agree, but that is the essence of learning. Ivan, welcome to the Fat Cats podcast. It's been long overdue, surely.
Yeah, thank you, Ruben. You finally got me.
I don't even know how, because no whiskey on the table, no nothing.
But I told you at the most opportune moment I'll appear. You will tell me, and I'll just say yes.
Okay. So we are going to find out about you later. But for now, you know, there are two ways of doing things usually when it comes to courtship. Okay. Yeah, there is you wine and dine, you get to know the girl. Some people can make it for an entire year. And there are these gangsters who go straight to the point. So my question is, why didn't you stand this year, having stood in the last elections campaign?
This year, well, it is 4 years. You know, so within 4 years, a lot of things happened.
Okay.
So many things happened. And one of the things that happened is I got so busy. I couldn't, put down my work, to get on a new assignment.
Yeah.
So that's why I just said to myself, let me not contest. And but also on the other hand, the race started so early, and it looked like people were more than one person was interested. And to me, it was already, a bonus from the previous time, I stood.
Okay, that's interesting. So, looking in retrospect to when you stood, paint us a picture of that. Is there anything you regret Is there anything you're proud of around that period? What did that period show you as someone who has been involved in rugby at different levels?
Um, well, it showed me one thing. Uh, the rugby circle is not as small as people may think. Rugby is so wide. For you to be able to lead rugby, you might have to go. You have to go around the whole country to look for those votes. So you have to be very conversant with the rugby fraternity. You shouldn't just think that you're going to just go through your friends or you go through a number of clubs on the surface and you get the votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caesar.
Yeah.
What is the one thing you've heard about Ivan Ssemuwemba?
Well, I have a
It
story.
doesn't have to be one thing.
I have a story I have to tell now. At the time when I heard about Ivan, was that time when he was running, and the people were behind him. Now, at that time, me and Adraf weren't friends. I had beef with Adraf.
Are you friends now?
Yeah, we are friends.
Why did you have beef with
I'm
Adraf?
telling you why. I like abusing Adraf. Now we are friends. But before, Adraf had just taken over management of Impis, and he was deep into Impis, and he kept on telling people that on top of me selling Impis players, I stole the trophies. I stole the trophies that Impis won at that time. Actually, University League. I didn't steal them. I just kept them.
If so, some money, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't sell any players. Man, players went on their own volition. Anyway, so when Ivan stood, I didn't know anything about Ivan apart from him being in Uganda Rugby at that time, I believe. I didn't know anything about Ivan, but I decamped. Do you know how I don't know how I decamped? I have an issue with leadership. I have an issue with leadership where the leaders are not the ones leading, and they are just there to fulfill the desires of their benefactors or their let me use benefactors. The other word is not good enough. So I always thought Ivan had an agenda. Ivan wanted to run to fulfill Adraf's agenda. So I hated on Ivan because of Adraf. But of course later I got to know what he was doing, Uganda Rugby and all that stuff. And then I got to speak to him sometimes when he was taking whiskey and I was taking soda. Yeah, then I got to know him better. But before, that's the story I wanted to tell. I decampaigned. Not that the people I was telling really were useful anyway, but I decampaigned him, and Zeno can attest. I kept on attacking Zeno over Ivan. Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's the beauty of platforms like this. At least for the people who are still there that are hating on Ivan for whatever reason, maybe they'll get to know a little bit more about him. We have a lot of blind hatred on a couple of people.
Especially in our sport.
Yeah. What is your response to that? Because clearly you received fire because of your brother.
I'm telling you, I didn't receive fire because of only Adraf. I think I received more fire because of Zeno. But your guy is your guy. Yeah. So if I receive fire on behalf of Adraf, I'll take it with all the heart. If it is Zeno, still I'll do the same. Because, I know them and I know they are good people. All their intentions are nice.
Okay, just looking at things from the time you were running 4 years ago and right now, what difference is there between then and now? We're looking at it from afar since you're not involved in the whole campaigning chaos and all that.
Yeah. The ground is the same. Nothing really has changed a lot. But maybe we might have more voters than that time. Because if we have given it 4 years, and in those 4 years we assume there can be some new members, as in clubs. So you might have, some new voters coming in. But also, on the other hand, you might find some voters falling off if you have in a club that has, has gone down the pecking orders. But pretty much it's the same thing, the same environment. Nothing has really changed. Yeah.
Okay. Just diving into the whole election chaos. There are still a lot of people that have been asking questions. Why they can't vote? Why is it that voting is sort of ring fenced? And so many other questions. So for a lay person that is watching this podcast, maybe just paint for them the picture. From that nomination process, how does the nomination happen? Then maybe we just jump into the breakdown of how the voting happens.
Yeah. The nomination takes this like this. You pick your form if you're interested in any position.
Is there any qualification? Like say, particularly for president, is there a
There is no
qualification?
qualification.
So that means Caesar can stand.
Yeah, even Caesar can stand.
Isn't that dangerous? Isn't that dangerous?
Yeah, it is very dangerous, but that is how it is right now.
Yeah.
So you pick your forms, and then you go to your club, your member club. So the member club is supposed to nominate you. So I think the essence of that was to create, also some ring fence in regards to, people who are not interested in rugby, people who are not in rugby circles shouldn't be coming in, because for you to get a nomination from your club, I think you have to be an active member.
Yeah.
You've been paying subscription and things like that. So when you get that nomination, now two other clubs have to do what? Have to second. Yeah, so you go to your other clubs that are going to second. The person who can second is the chairman or secretary, someone from the club excom. Yeah, same to the nomination.
Okay.
So you submit your nomination forms, and also verification takes place. Yes.
So then at that point, since first of all, I want to ask: do you believe that rugby, is there dirty politics in rugby?
There's dirty politics everywhere. So you cannot, if you say there's dirty politics in rugby, then you are attacking the sport as the sport alone. There's dirty politics everywhere.
Yeah. Do you think you fell to dirty politics when you were running?
Of course, I knew I was going in for that. It has to be there. It has to be there. And with dirty politics, doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have even to get too dirty. But any kind of dirt, like Caesar was the campaigning, but it doesn't know the person who was the campaigning. That is already dirty enough.
Caesar was just bored. He had nothing to do
So
all the time.
you will find someone cooking up a story and telling people, hey, this and this against someone who has actually, when the story is not true.
Yeah. So maybe how does actual voting work? I mean, we are really trying to put ourselves in a position where we are laymen who are just joined the sport. This year we have had a lot of, this year and last year, there's a high influx of new and younger rugby fans. So our responsibility is to make sure that they understand everything.
Yeah. Before the voting day, when verifications are done, of course, the union will now put out a notice of, the contestants for the various positions.
Telling you to submit by Sunday 2 p.m. It is up to you to decide which Sunday it is.
But everyone complied anyway. So after that, a week before or just days before the AGM, the clubs are again requested to submit names of their delegates, the people who are going to do the actual voting. But ideally, it was supposed to be the club chairman and the club captain.
Okay.
And I think the reason for doing that was actually to strike a balance between, management and the players. Because people know that the club captain represents the players. But of course, it's not followed these days. The club follows suit with one voice. They say we are voting for this one, and that is it. I don't know why it became like that, but that is what it is right now. And that is why actually players feel like they are not being represented enough. And now we are even hearing the fans also want to be represented. I don't know how that will be.
So what are your thoughts on that in particular? Because I'm a strong believer in change. I'm not a big fan of the current voting system, in that you have one person chosen to vote for a number of people, which may not be the biggest problem if there is a united front within that rugby club. But that's not always the case. And remember, there are certain things like we are advocating for membership amongst our fans. So that means they become an even more core stakeholder in the game.
Yeah.
We do have the media. They are a part of this sport as well, and they play a pivotal role. Players, like he has said, if the players can be able to have an association, or at least within the clubs, a particular association, don't you think that there should be an adjustment in the way the voting is done, not as it is at the moment?
I honestly believe the voting system right now is absolute rubbish. I'm sorry to use that language, because
You've been angry of late, huh?
especially right now, because you have a situation where a union can sanction or ban a fan base. You get? What gives them the right to do that?
As the authority that governs the sport in the
What?
country.
You see, governance in a democracy, governance is by the people, for the people, and the people.
Mm.
You only have authority over the people who gave you that authority. You get?
Mm.
My point is this: like you said, we have leaders that represent, like Ivan said, the clubs in that election. But I don't know whether, maybe we can ask Ivan, I don't know whether any club, my club for example, hasn't held an AGM to ask us who we want to vote for. You get?
Did you pay membership?
I'm a fully paid member.
Ah, okay.
So I think I am. You think? I know. Just go. Me, I just give the club money. If we have paid, I need to confirm that with the secretary. Anyway, my point is this: if my chairman who has been leading us goes and votes, does that vote represent the club? Does that vote and the club captains? And you see, in our excoms, a club captain is more a political position than, because we have a club captain and a team captain. You get?
Yeah.
Into the players, who really has authority? The team captain or the club captain? You see where we're going?
Yeah.
So the people, in essence, the people who go to vote, do they have the will of the... And that's why players will say, I didn't vote. That's why... And you see, politics, by the nature of politics, it's dirty. There's never been clean politics on this planet. Never. Like, even those democracies like the US, and they will not beat opposition people.
Only the naive believe the US is a democracy.
Okay. That's where I was going. They don't beat opposition leaders, but certainly, if you don't have the tank to people who can pay some money and get an exorbitant favors if you win the election, you see, it's really bad. That I think we need to change. And how do we change? Union needs money. We keep depending on now special. Why can't they put a clause in the constitution that allows a fund to pay membership to the union? Yes, the members, I was told by a gallant rugby player that the members of the union are the clubs. Fine. But if the members of the union are the clubs, what's the harm in being... What's the harm? Because there are people who don't subscribe to these clubs, but they love rugby. You talked about the media. You talked about, like, people who are not necessarily affiliated to these clubs, but they love rugby. They come. What the honorable minister, he claims to be a fan, and he's always there for sevens. What does he support Heathens because he goes to Chad on when the guys are training? Is he, because he's around to is he a pirate? You get my point. Like, we need to enlarge, and because it's all about accountability. Caesar, me as Caesar, I cannot demand for Tonchu to account for anything because I don't have that right. I'm demanding to him as who? You get? Me, I think they should enlarge it, because when you have a bigger poll to vote, they can say maybe they can't handle the numbers, but imagine they say every single year each fan pays 200k, 200,000 for membership to the rugby union. How much money will they make with these exorbitant funds with these many funds that we have? Because people want to engage, but now we shall complain, we shall riot. Jude is being paid to tweet 24/7, but his influence is zero because the people who are on Twitter don't vote.
You're trying to say Jude Mugabe is someone's influence?
Sure, damn, he doesn't hide. I like him, he never hides. Doesn't hide. He's not a fox in not sheepskin. He tells the truth. My point is this: Jude. I wish Jude could influence someone to vote, but no. At the end of the day, if Jude says so many things, but his candidate doesn't talk to this chairman to sell them an idea, then his work is useless. So my point is this: to maintain inclusivity, to maintain this whole allowing rugby people to be involved in the sport and develop it, I think we should change the system from this college nonsense, and we do adult suffrage. And we think, then you will see.
You want to... I want to...
You wanted to make
on a lovely evening like this one, I just want our people to know that Ivan has allowed to one of these days have a stay at the Fred and Winnie B&B. And why? Because it has 10 self-contained private bedrooms, it has a fully equipped kitchen, power backup system, Wi-Fi, laundry services, a chef that caters to your every meal, sumptuous buffet breakfast with a choice of selected tropical fruits and juice. Pick up and drop off as well. He stays in that side close to Buziga's, and so we can be able to get him wherever he is. And even if he wants to travel anywhere else around Uganda, that can also be arranged as long as it's booked in advance, which is something he is considering. And since he's here, he doesn't have to call. But for those who want to be like Ivan, they can call 0778-933-559. Also, there's a new braai machine, so you can have a proper barbecue roast here at the Fred and Winnie B&B. And yeah, back to the podcast. So there is a lot that Mr. Caesar has said, and we're talking about ring fencing. Let us first leave Jude's influencing for whoever the person is.
Yeah, we know.
What do you think about? Do you think the voting process is okay the way it is? Is it ring fenced? Should it change?
The current voting system is okay.
Okay.
It is okay.
Really?
Very okay. By
is it because you're an old school rugby fan?
Not because of that. I usually hear people, complaining about, inclusivity. But if you want to get involved with your club, be close. And if you're close, you'll be included. You wouldn't be asking, weird questions at now, chairman. By a mere fact that you voted a chairman, the chairman represents you. And whatever he does on the voting, day, that represents your club. And the moment your club is represented, you are represented. So, because, if we say, we should revise the voting system and what, the next day you're going to say, now we have spent a lot of money on voting. Now, instead of putting money on the players, now we are putting money on the voting. This is rubbish. So, I think we can stay with that. But people need to be involved with their clubs. They have to come around.
So they have to be a lot more involved in club activities.
That's a good point.
You can call for an AGM for your club. And
actually
you fail to get half of the members.
Yeah. Do you think that is because also that clubs are not using their structures well? Do you think that do all clubs have a mailing system? Do all clubs have a group WhatsApp? Do they send out blast WhatsApps? Starting from even things like games, do they send out things like that? Do they send out SMS?
I know
How
clubs.
do they keep
I know clubs have emailing systems. Okay, even if they don't have emailing systems, they even have WhatsApp groups where communication is put out there.
Yeah.
Clubs have social media handles. They are doing everything. Clubs are doing a lot. And all the people who are doing all that work are actually not being paid. They are doing voluntary work. So if these guys can come out and do all this work, why wouldn't you come and be close to your club? Even doing something so simple like attending an AGM for your club, you cannot do it.
Or paying
or even
membership.
paying membership.
You saw the war that was there
The
when they
chest.
told a certain club to pay
A certain
membership.
club
There
down
were two
there.
people. Some guys they chose to buy shirts but not pay
Pay
membership.
membership.
And when you talk to those
But I
people,
find
they will
that
tell you,
stupid.
I have the
I'm sorry
money.
to say.
I can actually pay the money. And you ask him, why didn't you pay the money? You know, and we move forward.
We are rich. We can pay.
So it's all about the rugby people coming closer to their clubs, and everything will be okay. They will look like okay. It will sound more like they are within the system.
But then, Ivan, if I may
Yes.
ask, Ivan, take for example,
Mm.
I am the chair. Let's say I'm the chairman of Smack Rugby Club,
Yes.
and then I'm using example so that I don't. People these days people take things seriously, man. I'm the chairman of the Smack Rugby Club, and say Aredo offers to lead the union, and then I go to my kids, and the kids say, you know what? For us, we want Aredo because we believe he can, but deep down inside, me and Aredo don't see eye to eye because probably he took my girl or something. Me and Aredo don't see eye to eye. Don't you see an issue there that I will choose my personal feelings towards Aredo because I'm human anyway, and I will vote someone because I have to make sure Aredo is punished, but then this is not what the team sent me to do. How do you think we can sort out that situation? Because those are human
You
things.
see, that is so minimal a thing, to come and change the whole structure. You get? It's not going to happen every day.
No, it won't.
And of the 20 chairmen who have been sent to vote, you will find that only one is going to vote his way and not the way of the club.
Of the club.
So are you saying that we change the system because of that one? You get?
You have a point there.
But also, now this thing of saying that the chairman represents the club. What if me I'm a chairman and I'm as people are saying on social media, I'm Nadi Day. Yeah? And you guys tell me what you want. Yeah, I go the other side and I make the vote. Even if they make noise, how? I've already made the vote.
That is the thing.
That is why we are talking about giving one person that much power over a rugby club's decisions. A rugby club, some of them even have branches, the women's side, what, everything. Don't you think it's dangerous?
It is dangerous. And maybe the only thing that we can change there is maybe if we don't make it open ballot. When we don't make it closed ballot. And we say it is open ballot. And you know that we sent our chairman to do this, and he has come, but you should all be ready to carry the cross.
Yeah. If the guy you voted doesn't go through. But then, unfortunately, that's politics, because even to use this country, our leaders go and sign treaties.
Exactly.
We sent them to. We don't even know what the treaties are about. We just trust that what they are doing, they know. Maybe I get Ivan's point. And he shares the point with that rugby enthusiast I was talking to yesterday, who thinks the same way, that, I mean, if you want to ensure your vote is counted, go and be close to your leadership, and ensure that be involved. So ensure that your views are
And in
taken
fact,
up.
when you're involved, the chairman will listen to you.
Yeah, he will.
You get?
He or
But
she.
you're not involved. You're just there. You just come for a game and a few beers, and then you're going to come and tell the chairman, I hear you want this guy.
That's true.
But
That's true.
anyway, so Ivan, tell us exactly how does the voting system work? Like, we've heard of a certain club having more points than a certain club, or more votes than a certain club. How exactly does it work?
Yes.
Or how is it currently working?
Each club that qualifies, of course, when you have paid your membership, of course, there are clubs that the new clubs don't get membership then, but they're supposed to also pay. They get their membership after two active years of rugby. So, and they get their membership. Their membership
How
becomes
much is
active.
the membership for club?
Membership is 200,000 a year.
Per year.
Yes. So,
if clubs are paying 200,000 per year,
mm,
should people also be paying 200,000 to be members of the club?
well, uh, I've seen clubs charging 240.
Should clubs be paying? Okay, I may be speaking out of privilege, but that seems like little money
Yeah,
for a club.
The whole process is not all about making money.
No, at least it shows that there is some level of money you have on you.
Eh,
Because even running a club is not cheap.
I know.
Mm.
So, but I've seen members of clubs,
Mm.
paying a good amount of money, 240, I think the list is around one. Okay, of course, there are those that don't charge membership.
Mm.
But that is
There are clubs that don't charge people.
yes, they are
Yes.
there. They have not activated that
Do you
that
chase away your
system.
guys who have not paid membership?
No, but they don't vote.
No, for the club. Oh, they don't
Yeah.
vote on
on
the
AGM
AGM.
What are you voting when you have not paid interest?
I've been just in clubs that don't have AGMs.
Very many.
So no, you were telling us.
So anyway, the clubs get two votes.
Mm.
Huh? Then, if a club has a feeder side,
Okay.
it gets an extra vote.
All right.
If a club has a facility, and by the facility, it has to be fully registered by Uganda Rugby Union,
Okay.
because the facility also pays its membership of 100,000 a
Okay.
year. So if that membership also, it's a vote.
All right.
Yes, that's how the system works.
Mm.
Yeah. So we have, like, take an example of pubs. The 2 votes,
Mm.
then the extra one for
Box.
box.
Mm.
Those are 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
How
then
about
let
the
me ask,
women's
we
side?
don't. I don't think our women's team is registered. But if it is, I think it's also a vote.
But
But let me
they
ask.
have not been playing.
Let me ask. Now, for example, us,
Yeah.
we don't own Legends,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
it is our home ground. It's
Yes.
where we play.
Yeah.
Does Legends okay? If Legends pays at 100K, does it vote as a part of Corps or it votes as Legends?
Legends chooses, I think. But usually it votes under, I think it votes under Rhinos.
Rhinos. Eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that's what I was going to ask. Because there's Rhinos, there is Cobs, and there's my former team, Warriors.
Warriors.
Why
So-
former? Why former?
Because I am a fat cat now.
Oh, okay. Ah.
Yes, I know many people have been wanting to get me out of retirement, but retirement is nice. Plus also, Good Friday touch was not easy. Okay, almost time. But anyway, yeah. So now a ground like Legends.
Yes.
Who claims that this is their rugby ground, and by what right?
There are those.
How is Rhinos claiming Legends?
If Rhinos went and registered it as they're playing as their ground,
Mm-hmm.
you have to register. You have to register it
Mm.
with the union.
Okay, so for Legends, Rhinos is the landlord, and the other guys are like the tenants.
I'm supposing,
Mm.
but you might find that also Legends goes there as an independent entity.
Mm.
Yeah, there is also that possibility.
Interesting. Then it would be interesting to find out what exactly they vote as, or who they vote under, because now they also have to protect their interests. But
Yeah.
now they are our friends from across the street
Across
of Estadio
Estadio
Sampunu. So now those guys, if you were to ask,
Yeah.
they claim, or at least the reputation that is there is they have the most votes.
Yeah.
How do they
How
come
do
about?
they come about?
Heathens,
Mm-hmm.
those are 2 votes.
Mm.
Mm,
Buffaloes, those are
Oh.
2 votes. Those are 4
Mhm.
now.
mm.
Now Heathens has stallions.
Yes,
Mm.
those are 5.
Those are 5.
Mm.
Now Buffaloes
Has
bisons.
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 Mhm.
6.
Those are 6. There's Thunderbirds.
7.
No, Thunderbirds, they have 2.
Mm.
Hey, none of us has 2, so 8.
Then there is also for the facility.
9.
Those are 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have 9 votes.
Yeah.
Oh, don't the Wazei count? Does Tag Rugby count?
No.
Why not? Are they part of the
So
rugby
what you're trying
community?
They
to
are
say,
not.
from your earlier explanation, only one of those clubs can claim Chadondo as their home
Yeah,
ground.
No, but also the way Chadondo structured itself. You know, Chadondo is one club with just teams coming out of it. It's Chadondo Rugby Club.
What do you mean?
Well,
It's Chadondo Chadondo Rugby Club.
So does Chadondo have trophies they won?
Yes.
Which one? You man. I think Chadondo might be. I think Chadondo might be. A
Okay,
sports club.
when Heathens was signing their deal with Platinum,
Who did they sign as?
you don't know
No.
Chadondo Rugby Club.
Are you serious?
Yes, it is not Heathens. It is Chadondo
So does
Rugby
that mean
Club.
that Platinum Credit gives some money to?
Yeah,
So
that-
when
that they
Buffaloes,
do give
when
some money
Buffaloes
to
were signing a
Buffaloes.
deal to Toyota, is it a
that-
deal with Buffaloes
that
or
one is
Chadondo
with-
Rugby Club?
Well, that one is with Buffaloes, but the way Chadondo does, everything is within the
Interesting.
Even-
you guys be as legends fighting each other. I knows what.
Would I fight with rhinos for what? For example.
Okay, from the information we have gotten today, right now, can lobby for Cubs to beat Chester. Then you have to go and
They will not have a single rugby fan coming to watch them play. All their fans come to watch
You have
them.
to go and
I'm
plead
sorry,
with,
I take it back. I don't want to be stoned.
you have to go and plead with Pirates to share Kings Park.
Oh my god, the day that happens, I don't know where I would go, but I move on.
So that means if someone that is vying for presidency
Yes.
can get Chadondo, let's say legends,
Yeah.
don't they find themselves in a proper situation where they are almost already winning?
Yeah, it's a big block. It's a big block. But like I told you, the rugby circle is not that small. That it's not that as small as people think.
People think,
Yeah. If we start listing clubs that are outside of those entities,
yeah.
you know how big a block that can be.
And funny enough, most of those clubs outside the entities have home grounds.
There is also that. But the problem is sometimes those home grounds are not registered with the union.
With the union.
Yes, you have to have registered.
I get
For example, since you people left the date, I think,
Eh?
for Makere, you people never used to pay for what? For the facility, Makere.
I don't know what we used to pay in Makere or not.
Cubs is special.
I'm talking about Impis. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I want to talk about Cubs.
You come, bring it on.
Because now
No,
Impis right now would be having, actually, Impis has the potential of having four votes.
Oh, votes, yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
There's
Actually.
Impis the two, then
The-
Tangas one, and then the
They
facility.
join and vote.
And they even have uses for
Why
Ram.
people don't know how to do alliances? Why don't they join and voters?
So if they join with Rams, it
and
becomes
Rams has
a big
two girls teams.
Yeah, you see that.
The Rams is serious.
How many votes does Rams have?
You're seeing another voting block
Three,
there.
5. Rams has 7 votes.
7 votes.
Rams has the two,
Plus Rams 2.
Rams
Three.
two,
those are three.
Plus the 2 girls teams.
They have two girls.
And
teams.
we just say the girls team.
There's use and use
There is the girls team for the two, and maybe if
One
we say
for use two.
one. Yeah,
So they count as 1.
but now that girls team, okay, yeah.
They could be having 7 votes. Now, if they had a ground, or if by some...
They can't be 7. Maybe maximum, maybe 6
6 or 5.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Anyway, before we get into the next part of what we want to talk about, there's a question that slipped through the cracks. What exactly is your biggest regret from your tenure campaigning for Uganda Rugby presidency?
Campaigning Uganda Rugby.
Or like running for presidency?
Running
What was
for
your biggest
presidency.
regret
I
/
I
disappointment?
didn't really regret a lot. Actually, I didn't regret anything.
Mm.
Or maybe if I am to regret, maybe the fact that I did not go to all the corners of the country where rugby is being played.
Mm.
Yeah, because I didn't reach Kitgum, I didn't reach Lira, maybe that would be the regret, and that is just a personal thing of like I should have gone to that place and
Mm.
yeah.
So your strategy was
And see how rugby is being played that side. You get to interact with people and understand what is happening. Yeah.
Is it true that some rugby clubs ask for money in exchange for their vote?
Okay. They don't ask for money per se.
Mm.
This is what happens. you're seeing the position right now. I saw someone telling somewhere of like, I think it was with Narubari somewhere, where they were saying there's a potential of 77 votes. But they are seeing at the moment they have 29 active votes. You get. So where the problem comes from is the clubs don't tend to pay membership. Yeah? When you don't pay membership for for all those years, and then you remember to pay membership at the end of towards the AGM, after the 4 years it has become 800,000. You get. So you find that the club has no interest in the voting system. You say, after all, people are choosing themselves and what. So even if I vote, even if I don't vote, it is the same. So now this guy comes and tells them, you know what, I want you to vote me. So they have no option. They'll just say, if you want to, to activate us, you go and pay the membership. Otherwise, for us, because you find that the clubs do not, there is nothing they lose if they don't pay the membership. You're going to pay to play all the competitions, and even if you win, your prize money is going to be given to you without subtracting that money. So there is nothing to lose.
Do you think that's right?
Of course, it's not right, but it comes down to which people are running those things and how they do it. Because one, clubs maybe forget to pay the membership, and they need constant reminders. But those constant reminders, the reminders usually come every year in the AGMs. In those books of accounts, they list for you the clubs and how much they owe the union. So the information is there. Meanwhile, so
maybe to that point, I want to ask. So, what if a team has not been paying membership every year for those years, then it pays membership on the voting year? Is that valid, or you have to pay all your arrears?
You pay all the arrears.
That's a good stand.
Anyway, so looking at Godwin Kayangwe, who's the incumbent, and then looking at Philip Kiboijana, what's your thoughts about them as human beings? About people in rugby, let me say. People in rugby. Have you looked at their manifestos? What do you think about it? Maybe even before you answer, because you've been quite vocal, especially about one of them, where under one influencer's tweet,
His Excellency
Ivan asked if when he was a VP at Channel,
do you know Jude was the most active? No, I don't fear names. Jude was the most active guy asking questions on Twitter during the debate.
Yes.
Jude, I'm going to pay Jude to influence for me. He's a good man.
When you stand for your
Nothing.
Are you sure it works?
Okay. But anyway, you asked Jude about Philip Kiboijana, saying when he was VP at Chadondo Heathens, they lost him, asking him to justify that, something that Kiboijana actually responded to. And he did give a response saying in the 4 years he was there, HIMA renewed its value with Chadondo by ×2, inclusive of kits, pad, boots and balls. Toyota renewed ×2 value as well. Nile Special signed a long-term partnership, contract, cash and support on facility development. And then new sponsors, UMC Victoria Hospital and Unilever. That is what was the conversation between you and Philip Kiboijana. So just what are you seem to be a bit skeptical about Philip Kiboijana. What are your thoughts?
No, it's I think if people read that, it's a mistake.
Actually, I understood what you meant.
I was actually I commented about Jude's
assertion that
the assertion was that people are not doing much. Looking at the previous sponsorships that we had, Mango, MTN, LG, Bell, whatever. So that's why I also asked about that, because those sponsorships went. Even this one went. So does anyone in rugby have a hand in it for the sponsors to leave? We shouldn't assume that, because sponsors sponsors can have their own what, own desires and their own game changers. Yeah, because I even had one. There's a sponsor we had one time, I think, whereby we I think that sponsor just changed the MD. And when the MD came and the MD was pro of another sport, he said, no, we'll go to the other one. I think so. Something like that can happen. It's not all about the management of the union or to do anything like that. Yeah. So that's why I tweeted that. I was responding like that.
Okay. So yeah, just going back to what we're trying to ask. Both men are running.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about each of them and their campaign this year?
Well, first of all, both of them have been, they're evidently they have been doing a lot for us, both of them. But of course, we shall not rule out the fact that one has done it longer than the other. You get, and they have done a significant job, and they have actually been doing some of the things together. So sometimes, if you want even to separate the, what the other has done and the other, it will be hard for you. Because I even saw a tweet one time. A Mongas guy was commenting about receiving a new jersey, and he was giving all the props to Phil. Then, Godwin came, brought the facts out also, because they did it together. So, they have been doing things together. They have done, so many things together. And they are, I think, if given a chance, they can do more. Yeah.
Yeah, but looking at these gentlemen, okay, just at surface level, it shows that it is a contradicting spectrum. That it's maybe you choose to go with the devil, or opt for an angel, which could be a mirage of something that you do not understand, something that could be different in the future. But then again, there are also people who are saying that these two are buddy-buddy, meaning they have been in the same thing from way back.
And
so, do you think it's pretty much same dragon, just different heads, or these are two different dragons, and perhaps someone should choose one?
Wouldn't they have played too much to do that? That is too much play.
I know you talked about politics being quite dirty.
I know, but they're not. Maybe one of them assumed, like, I can do this in a different way. Because even if they have worked together for a long time, I don't think that even when they sit for meetings, they are clicking on everything. There are times when you have someone having a different work method from the other one, and I understand that might be the case.
Okay.
Yeah, when you think someone is doing okay, he has used his approach on something, and it is not working.
Yeah.
You might want to come and and also test yours till you find out that even yours is not going to work, and maybe we need something different.
Okay, so with these two gentlemen, you've listened to both of them speak. Both of them are on the Fat Cats podcast. They've spoken to Nalubale Sports. Both.
Yeah.
They have had a recent debate at NBS.
Good one.
It was a good one. What is ideally your thought? Who do you think you would lean towards from what they have been saying, from their manifestos? Which one is more sellable to you?
Well, if you look at manifestos, Phil's manifesto looks good.
Okay.
But then there is a reason as to why maybe Godwin did not, want to have really a fancy manifesto. Because he has been in there, and he knows that when you enter that, that office like this, you're not going to be relying on your manifesto alone. Even when he put out a team, the chances of his team to make it to to the final destination are very, very minimal. Like you cannot it's very hard for your team, your whole team, to be voted into office. Yeah. So at the end of the day, they are going to reach there, and you make a strategy. So it's not going to be about the manifesto. It's all about what is on the ground and what is supposed to be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caesar, so same question. You've listened to them on the Fat Cats podcast. You have also watched their interviews with Nalubale and the recent one where you're also part of the crowd that was at the live debate on NBS. Do you have anyone, have you made any, if you were to vote, have you made any decision on what side to lean, or what makes more sense to you from the two?
Well, if I can bring it out this way, one disclaimer first, because I feel like we've concentrated so much on the presidency that we've forgotten to concentrate on the people vying for the other positions. Because a union runs rugby, not particularly the president, and we are quick to crucify him when the things don't go right. But then we are. I mean, Philip, some of the work Philip has done is literally under this union. You get, he was on the local committee for the Sevens, women, like he's on committees sanctioned by the union. So when someone comes and says Philip should be voted in because this is what he has done, then Godwin should be voted in for choosing Philip.
Yeah.
Because that's strategic direction. You get my point. So I feel like for starters, we've concentrated so much on the presidency and we've forgotten. And if time can allow, I want to talk about the VP technical battle. But anyway, that said, what do I feel? I sent out a tweet earlier on that got mixed feelings from people. But look here, Godwin won an election in 2019. No one expected what was going to happen to the world. No one. We were shut down for 2 years. Yes, we played rugby later on in 2020, I think, or 2021. But we were shut down for 2 years. No one knew what we were going to do. No one knew what was going to happen. But he was at the helm of a sports federation.
Yeah.
And for some reason, if I'm not mistaken, rugby was the first sport to come out with a competition. If I'm not mistaken, I'll be corrected. I stand corrected. And come out with a competition. And we did. Short-lived, yes, but we had a competition. We hosted a tournament. Soon after COVID, we hosted a tournament where our national team was in camp and all that stuff. We've recently hosted a women's tournament, and we hosted one of the best tournaments I've watched in my rugby life, the Sevens. So I feel like, whereas people are crucifying, we are quick to look for the mistakes that people have done. But I feel like his union has steered the get back to rugby, the recovery from COVID. For me, is one of his biggest achievements. People will bring so many things, but the entire union under his leadership came out of COVID in a very good way. And yes, they made mistakes, but I feel like they did a good job. That said, Philip too, in all the work that he has done, he keeps talking about the story of floodlight rugby, and whereas by its issues and lighting and everything, it was an amazing idea. And indeed, the few times we played flat rugby, the crowds were a menace. You get, and at least that's what he says. It was his idea, and he pushed it. So you see, even the organization, the leadership and organization of these tournaments that he has been involved in shows that he has qualities of a leader. So I feel like I have not made up my mind. I feel like both of them have issues, and both of them have something to provide. My biggest issue, and that's the issue, I talked about it last time, and you guys laughed about it. My biggest issue is conflict of interest. We want a leader who can I don't know how to bring this up, can be seen, because it's very hard to say it, but we want a leader who can be seen, not to have conflict of interest. It is said that Tonshu started fan zone, yeah? But when he entered rugby management, he left fan zone. But now, It's different from fan zone. Is not that. Yeah. Let me stop there. My point is this: we all know where field works.
Do we?
TBWA.
That's what I wanted to hear.
We know what TBWA does for our rugby. I mean, they are in charge. They are in charge of some monies there, and they are a big stakeholder in our rugby fraternity. If Phil goes into power, how I would have loved to know in the debate. I had too many questions, but I got only a chance to ask one or two. I would have loved to know whose allegiance he is going to have. Is he going to be aligned to the organization he works for, or is he going to be aligned to the organization he leads? The same issue I had with Peter Magona. I don't know where he falls. In the time where we at loggerheads with TBW is the loggerheads with the sport, whose side will they take? The side that pays him, or the side that is volunteering to? That's a question I would love to be. I know he's going to watch this podcast. I would love him to tweet about it and answer that question, because for us, we are rugby fans, we are rugby members, we are everything rugby. We want to be selfish about our interests. That conflict of interest is what I want to know how someone will handle it. Something small before you take away the mic from me. I want to. It's not like I don't like Eric. Don't get me wrong. Eric is a legend in the sport. Played rugby for Budo, Pirates, the nation. He's a TM of the nation. But I feel like Zeno is dismissed so easily, and I don't like it. People have this mentality about Zeno, Othieno Ora,
Sankara.
They have this mentality about Zeno, the guy who was banned for pouring beer on a Namibian coach, allegedly. He's contentious, fighting everyone, but that guy has a rugby brain. And Ivan is his boy. He knows him inside out, even better than me. Maybe I have also conflict of interest because he's my friend. But I've interacted with Zeno at so many times. Zeno, together with Ivan, they've worked with Chambogo Rugby. They've worked with places that people don't even look up to, and they get them to a level where, where they're competing, where they're doing well. Zeno has worked with so many places. So because he's I don't know what to use. He's a confrontational man. He's a very, should I use the word honest? I don't know what to use. People dismiss him. How can Zeno be the leader? But that man has ideas that I feel like now this is personal, but these are views of Caesar Nkunda, not Fat Cats. I feel like personally, people shouldn't dismiss him easily, because when we dismiss people so easily because they don't have glamorous careers like the other people they're standing against, we lose that element of leadership that would have come to, and people need to remove these sentiments, those thoughts they have on Zeno. Man, that guy is a good leader and has ideas.
Well,
thank you. Thank you.
There is a lot that clearly Caesar has wanted to get off his chest.
Yeah.
But I want to first ask you this question, and I just want a yes or no answer. Do you believe that Zeno poured that beer?
No.
Okay. Although you hesitated a bit, but okay, let's move on. But then,
because he said you believe, like, so I had to,
Okay. He talked about the conflict of interest.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
I think Caesar has asked the question.
Question of questions.
The question of questions.
Okay.
I think it's a question that I thought people would ask from the beginning of this whole, campaigns and what, and even showing interest, because we had in the previous regime or EXCOM, we had a person who coincidentally comes from the same entity, TBW. And, when things, were showing, in a bad signs or things like that, people started questioning the conflict of interest. And actually, so many people were asking, how did he make it there? You rugby guys are not serious. How do you have a guy who clearly has conflict of interest, take up such a position and what and what? And guess what? This time round, we want to actually test it with the highest position. With a position actually with more power. Whereby, because if the president says, this is going to be it, it is going to be it. You get? So now, how should we test our highest position with conflict of interest? It's a big question. It's a very, very, very big question. Maybe if we learn to deal with it this time round, the other, the years to come, we shall know exactly how, to deal with it. Maybe we may even have, something written down for to govern it. But of course, when at the beginning of that regime, there was also, but anyway, Poncho says, okay, that is Godwin. He says it doesn't, he was not actively involved with the fan zone. But, most people say fan zone is his, you get. So, in either way, we still don't, it's a big point. We don't want to have it. It's not a good thing to have because it's something that people will always use against you when you're in the office, and people know that there is at least something leaning. They know that you're going to lean somewhere.
Okay. In a minute or two, is Zeno? Let's talk about VP Technical.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the right man for the job? Zeno Ora, Othieno, Sankara, Thomas. These days I like saying all his names. Or Eric Butime.
If you asked me that, whatever, if I say Zeno, people will say he's my friend. Yeah, but I know Zeno more, and I don't know Butime that much. You get, but I know even Butime can do a good job. But for what I know about Zeno, I think he may do a better job. He's a man who needs to be tested by some other people to get to know that he can actually, or he will always deliver. That part I know about him. He will always deliver.
Okay, so let us let go of that election conversation and jump into our last, or let's say slightly second last part of what we're talking about. In about 3 minutes to 5 minutes or so, this weekend we have a matchup that might ideally shake the title race. We have Heathens taking on Pirates. The Pirates visit Heathens at Estadio de Swampunu, aka Chadondo, aka I don't know what other aka you can.
Mama Chigere's
shout out to Mama Chigere.
Shout out.
And to Mike on the poke. What are your thoughts about this matchup that's going to happen, especially after what we saw between Cobs and Heathens? Do you think that referees perhaps respect Heathens a little too much this week? We also saw a case of Buffalo's try being denied a clear try. And yet again, we have another title decider. Keep in mind, Heathens has 62 points, 61 points Cobs, 61 points Pirates.
It's a tight one. But I wouldn't tell you that this is what I expect from a ref. Or I expect a ref to make a mistake. If I do that, then that means maybe we should play rugby without referees. You get? The referees have to be there. And remember, they are human. So, in the how many calls does a referee make in a match? Over 100, I may say. So, should we crucify them over the 1, 2, 3 mistakes they have made? I think we are being too biased.
Are you perhaps saying it because it has not affected your team?
No, my team has been affected a lot by those by those things. But at the end of the day, this is a sport, and sport is governed like that, or sport is run like that. The referee's, whistle is final, and all decision is final. And when he makes a mistake and doesn't favor you, you always think he has cheated. But sometimes, never. I don't think there are times when they cheat. Cheating for what?
Do you think the union handled the Heathens Cobb situation the right way?
Yeah, I think they handled it the right way. The only problem is the point where they said the ref made a wrong call, and they actually even crucified him for it, and then they decided to maintain the score. But I think they just wanted to put everything right, because if you say you're going to change that score, then so many other scores you'll have to change. You have to keep on changing. The same applies to saying that maybe we do a repeat of the game, which will keep on occurring. Everyone will say, "Hey, we repeat ours. We repeat ours." So that is part of our sport. Yeah. Before we get the cameras, the TMOs, that is what we are going to be having all the time. Yeah.
Caesar, in a minute, just picking off what he said, do you think that that a precedent has been set if the union does not address it going forward, that other teams also, when they feel hard done, they can choose to not continue a game, they can choose to stop play as it is, because we have not seen any sort of punishment for Cobbs refusing to finish the game, and yet it was the referee had not blown the final whistle. Do you think, because Buffaloes could have easily done it this weekend as well if they wanted, but they didn't?
Yeah.
Do you think it set a precedent that should be followed? Do you think it was the right way to be handled?
I personally believe two corrections before I give you my opinion. The first being, if you guys watched the debate, and I later, from my little research, I realized the union didn't make the decisions that were made for the Cobbs and Heathens game. The Cobbs and Heathens game decisions were made by it's called the TC? Okay, the body below the union. So what happens is, after that decision was made, then any aggrieved club was supposed to write to the union for the union to pronounce itself. And I think if you watch the debate clearly, that's what Godwin said, that the decision taken that time and all the correspondences were not by the union, but by there's a body there, forgetting it, the one that has commissars and where Robert, I think, used to work a lot. I think it's technical committee. I don't know what it's called.
Let's call it the technical
committee. So if we're aggrieved, and I have it on good authority that indeed Cobbs lodged a further appeal to the union, so maybe the union has to come and pronounce themselves. I feel like secondly, that game ended, Ruben. I need people to know this. That game ended. That game wasn't abandoned.
In a penalty try, which shouldn't have been a penalty.
Yes,
try,
but he blew the final whistle. So I think that is why. I want to believe that's why. And the fact that Mutimba in himself didn't make cautions for the Cobbs players, that maybe that's what the committee is using, not to ban. I feel like their decision was wrong, personally. I feel like they could have handled it a little bit better. And yes, I worry because part of me as a rugby fan, I worry. I know I love Cobbs, and Cobbs is my life, but I worry that the fact that no Cobbs player was sanctioned, it will set a precedent, because if another team does it now and the ref doesn't act, then if the ref acts in game, there's no problem. If a ref gives someone for refusing to continue a match and give him a yellow card, and I'm telling you, had the ref given Cobbs players yellow cards, they would have moved. But the fact that he chose to talk to them gave them the permission, the indication that what they are doing was right. So I feel like me on my own personal, I feel like they should have maintained the draw and banned the Cobbs players.
Okay,
that's what I think. That's what I think.
That's interesting.
Suspend them for like 2-3 games, all the rest of the season, all the rest of the calendar year, but suspend them, because at the end of the day, bad or good, the ref is the sole judge of fact on the pitch. And we have to maintain that. Back to the Cobs Heathens Pirates game. I think that's going to be one of the best officiated matches.
All right.
Because just once again, because one, if you read that report, Mutimba was not suspended. He was sent for further training. Further training. And he's back, for your information. So don't be shocked if Mutimba is in the middle of that game. But anyway, whoever the ref is, I think it's going to be the best officiated game. Why? Because every single person, once it's a mistake, there's something about threes. 3 strikes, they send you longer in prison. The cock crowed thrice for Peter to deny Christ. If you do it a third time and the officiating is shaky, then there will be a problem that union needs to address. So I think they're going to officiate that game very, very well, and it's going to be an interesting game. Okay. It's really going to be an interesting game.
What's your prediction for that game?
Prediction? I'm going to go with 15-12.
To who? The ref?
No, 15-12 to Pirates.
Okay.
Pirates is winning.
Your prediction, good sir? At Chadondo, keep in mind you're giving that.
15-12 to Pirates.
Okay.
I'm going for a draw.
You're going for a draw. So, anyway, for those that don't know, the weekend's games, Impis host Hippos, Heathens host Pirates, Walukuba hosts Cobs, Rhinos host Buffaloes, and Rams host Mongers. Then looking at the table, the top 3 Platinum Heathens 62, Cobs 61, Stambik Pirates 61. Looking at the bottom 3, it is Walukuba Barbarians 19, Rhinos 13, and Rams 8, yet to make double figures. Top point scorers, Ivan Magomo at the helm now with 111 points. Aaron Oforoth, despite being on 7's duty at 85 points, and Joseph Faredo 85, Henry Sakoye 84. We'll end this by asking, people have been seeing you talking about a lot of things here on the podcast. Who is Ivan? What does Ivan do?
Ruben.
Your mafia, this is why you tell us you're part of this cartel, this mafia.
Will I tell you?
If you are part of the MK movement, also tell us. We want some money.
No, Ivan Ssemuwemba. I'm a businessman for a living. I do construction hardware.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do for a living. And then also real estate management.
Okay.
Under Nyumbani Estate Managers.
Right.
Yeah, the hardware, I'm doing it under Silver General Hardware. Yes. And there's also something new to come, I think, in the future.
You're cooking.
Yeah, there's something we are cooking where we're supposed to have online hardware.
Oh, all right.
So that when you want a tin of paint, or even just wanting the price, you don't call me at night. you just go to the app and find out everything by yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rugby journey?
Rugby journey. I was started from Makerere College. Yeah. Because I first touched the rugby ball in the JSS, but rugby never kicked off in DJ. So in my HSC, I went to Makerere College, and rugby was vibrant there. That's where I played my rugby from. I didn't feature a lot because of some injuries there, and then proceeded to Chambogo, where of course being a person studying and working, it took me long to realize there was rugby in Chambogo. So I actually joined the team in my second year, not in the first year. Yeah, so I did most of my rugby in Chambogo. Yeah, that's where I played most of my rugby. Yeah, and from there, saw the vision of actually, creating a club in that community. Yes, through the university, because the university has the facilities and the population, and if we put the community also together, we can have something good there. And that is what we are. That's what I've been pushing ever since. And I think we are almost coming to to the good things.
Okay. That's great. I think my last question for you would be: do you plan to stand again for Uganda Rugby presidency?
Of course.
Or your sights on something bigger like Minister of Education and Sports?
No. Yeah, the plans. Of course, there was even a plan to stand this time, but I got so busy. But you never know what comes, ahead. I'm still around. If a chance comes again, I will take it. Yeah.
All right. It's been a really great conversation. The voting happens on April 23rd, so it's just around the corner. But we hope that we are able to paint a picture for you before everything happens. Thank you yet again for being part of the Fat Cats Rugby podcast. Sometimes I know they are lengthy, but they are worth every minute of it. We'd beg to be excused that we can go for our evening drink, whatever it might be, for some water, for some soda, for some other drinks. But otherwise, keep it Fat Cats, engage with us on social media, and see you next time. Cheers.
Later,